All right, so same rules as we just went through. You guys were around and paying attention to that, and so we'll walk through it together. It'll be easier with just two of us. And so we'll begin with a 5-minute opening statement, and we've been going in alphabetical order. So K is before T. So we'll get started with your 5-minute opening statement.
All right. First of all, welcome everyone, and thank you for hanging in here after such a spirited group that was here just a few moments ago. It was a great time. Great information, and they're great guys, all of them. That would be a tough one in terms of the vote. My name is Mark Keogh, and I'm here with my wife, Kim, who is here with me tonight. Kim, go ahead and stand up real quick so everybody can see who you are. She's here with me tonight. I'm the father of 4. 2 of my kids were raised right here in the Woodlands, Texas, where they went through the Woodlands High School. I've been a businessman in the area for 26 years. I am presently pastor of a church. You say, how in the world did you do that? Years ago, I got into the car business. And I was just laughing with somebody. I said, here we have Bruce, an attorney, and me, a car guy, up here in the front. Somebody said, hang on to your wallets. But what happened was I had the opportunity to retire recently from the car business. 2 months ago I did. My wife and I started a church about a year ago. Our January will be our 1-year anniversary. And so we decided that we were just going to go full-time at the church. At that same time, Representative Toth contacted me, and he said, I'm going to be going into the Senate. Tommy Williams has left. Mark, I really want you to consider running for this position. Thought about it, prayed about it, went to a recent event, announced it, and decided to do it. So here we are tonight. The question is this: why in the world am I doing this? Listen, I'm concerned about Texas. I know that you are concerned about Texas. I am concerned that there is a group of people that want to take our state and turn it from red into blue. I believe there are people here that don't hold the same values that are in our state that want to turn from red to blue. They don't hold the same view of business. They don't hold the same view of being pro-life. They don't hold the same view of family, the traditional family. And that concerns me. Recently, the head of that organization went down to the border, said she was going to sign up 45,000 people to vote. She came back, 100,000 people. I don't know about you, but that concerns me. I think the Republican Party should be, and is, I think, a little bit, but they should be in a panic about this because we're going to lose everything if we don't wake up and start voting. Here's another issue that deeply concerns me. Did you know that Texas has the lowest voter show up to the polls of virtually any state in the country? That's amazing. I was listening to recently a statement by Pastor Cruz, Ted Cruz's father. He said, you know, there are 80 million people that say that they are evangelical Christians. That means they vote, they don't vote, they pray, they read their Bible, they go to church. Of those 80 million, only 40 million are registered to vote. And do you know that in the last election, only half of those voted? I have a deep concern about that, especially as we see our state moving in a particular direction. Now, when it comes to issues of the budget, we all know that we need work in the budget, and we're going to talk about that as we get into that. We know that we have issues in education, and we're going to talk about that when it comes up in talking about education, especially as it relates to the disconnect between textbooks and teacher curriculums, online teacher curriculums that deny things like American exceptionalism, our heritage, that sort of thing. I'm concerned about what's taking place in immigration. I'm concerned that our borders are not secure, and the impact that's having on our tax structure, the impact it's having on the whole state, the impact that is going to have upon the voting of the people of Texas. So I've come here tonight because to present my case that I believe is the right one. I believe it is probably the most conservative. I don't know that about Mr. Tubby. He's a good guy. We all know he's got great experience, and we all like him, and he's a great guy. Point here, though, is that these are the things that I believe and that I want to do and I want to make changes in, and that's what I'll do when I have the opportunity.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to thank the Montgomery County Tea Party and Pastor Mark Dennison for opening his church up for this event. It is just a great night. I'm going to tell you, it's different sitting up here than it is back down there. The lights are a little bit different, so you get a whole different perspective. But it's great. I'm glad everybody stayed around for this debate. I want to recognize my wife, Diana, who's here tonight, mother of our 4 daughters. Diana, she had car duty with young kids, car duty, carpool, so she made all the carpool rounds and then was kind enough to come here. And I want to thank you, Diana. I want to thank you for your support. That is really one of the big reasons why I ran. And I would not have done it without Diana's support or my family's support. And this was very prayerful, very thoughtful, and I realized it was going to take a big commitment from me. But I'm doing it for Legislative District 15. I want to offer my experience, my track record, what I've done, what I have walked the walk, and what I've accomplished. And I want to take that to Austin. Maybe I can teach them a thing or two. I want to give you a little bit of my background so you appreciate why I would say something like that. Currently, I serve as chairman of the Woodlands Township. That's like the mayor equivalent of 108,000 people and a $115 million budget. I'm moving into my 3rd term as the chairman, and actually filed for this election, had completed an election in the township for a 2-year term as a director or city council member, and then was elected by my fellow directors, and I'm honored. I'm honored to have been elected. Gordy Bunch is one of the directors here, Mike Bass as well. I want to thank you two for being here. Gordy's put himself up for consideration for public service as well. Well, I'm a businessman and I'm a conservative. I'll tell you that right now. I'm pro-life. And I hate taxes. I don't like government intrusion. And to tell you how much I don't like it, when I had an opportunity to do something about it, I put 3 businesses, 3 associations, 3 homeowners groups out of business, Jim Doyle. I put them out of business, okay? 28 elected people, we put them out of business. We returned $10 million back to the voters. We lowered the tax rate from 40 cents down to 13 cents. That's how much I don't like taxes. So we did that in the Woodlands. I did that, I voted on it, and I worked on it. Over the last 4 years, we've lowered taxes 10%. So you talk about what the state's doing, it's a spending problem. That's what it is. If you don't spend, you won't have to have an increase in taxes. And we've received that benefit in the Woodlands. We've lowered taxes below the effective tax rate 2 years in a row. Okay, that's doing something. Lowered it below the appreciated value of your property, so you're not taxed with that. That's what we did in the Woodlands. When I served on the Conroe Independent School District Board of Trustees, I served as a trustee almost 6 years. At the time I got on the board, the wheels were coming off the school bus. We had 10 or 12 lawsuits. Our superintendent had left. Our CFO had left. We had an acting superintendent, and we had a high tax rate. Well, now we have the lowest tax rate in the state. That's the Conroe Independent School District. And when the legislature changed the whole funding mechanism, they gave 3 extra pennies. They used to call them the golden pennies. Well, I wouldn't spend it. I wouldn't spend them, but every other school district spent the money. They spent it because they had it. That's one of the problems with education. You're throwing a lot of money at education, and there's no requirements that are coming back. Now, Conroe Independent School District, let me tell you about them. Rated 1, 2, or 3 top academic and financial and accountability rating. They are the success model for the state of Texas. And I proudly served as a trustee on the Conroe Independent School District and had a large part in affecting and establishing the lowest tax rate for a school district and financial and academic accountability in the top section. It's an exemplary school district. In the top 25, I think there's 54,000 students and there's 52 schools. It's an amazing school district. That's the model we need to bring to Austin. We need to look at the success of that school district and say, why aren't you other school districts doing the same thing? Why are you spending $60 million on a stadium? Why are you spending money to build an administrative center for the students? Those big capital expenditures are huge black holes. We did not do that in the Conroe Independent School District. I also served as president of the Woodlands Fire Department for 10 years. 10 years.
That is the 5-minute mark. I apologize.
All right, 10 years and we've raised our ISO rating from 4 to 1. And I'll conclude. Thank you.
You gentlemen obviously understand the issues, and we're here for what the previous candidates were asked. These questions will be similar. Maybe we'll combine a little bit since you guys know what we're talking about. Let's talk about the budget, the state budget. Of course, that the new member from House District 15 will be voting on the one budget that we have to pass. And we talked with the other candidates about ways to cut the budget. We also talked about funding for economic development. Some folks think that's something that should go. So, Steph, we'll start with you because we opened with Mr. Keogh. So you'll get this question first. Tell us about the state budget. Would you cut it? If so, where and how? And work in, if you'd like to, your thoughts on funding for state funding for economic development. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm going to start with economic development. It's worked for Legislative District 15. Economic development, businesses have to be encouraged. If you have a great place for them, certainly they will come. But it's not without incentives, and it is competition. Businesses are business because they compete against each other, and free market principles, free market economy, that's what drives the business environment in the state of Texas. And it's worked. It has worked. We've given tax abatements. We've given encouragements to businesses. But what it yields is that the businesses are paying the sales tax, the hotel tax in the Woodlands is 52%. 48% is ad valorem property taxes. So it keeps going down, 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 down. The more businesses you get in, the less of your property tax that you're going to pay. Now we have 5 international headquarter businesses that are in the Woodlands, and when you start evaluating sales tax dollars on that, it's where the corporate headquarters are, so you realize the benefit of the sales tax. That's why the sales tax goes up, the property taxes go down. It's great to do it. It works for us. We've realized a serious benefit for it. I'll tell you the budget issue is a spending problem. It really is. It's a spending problem. We do a zero-based budget in Woodlands. We start from zero. We look at what's essential, what is necessary, what can people provide for themselves. Those are essential services. We run a city like a business. The state should do the same thing.
Thank you, Mr. Keogh. So talking about the state budget, that we would cut it if you would, and also state funding for economic development.
Right now, the budget ended up last year in the state $3 to $4.5 billion in the hole for the 12 and 13 biennium. By the time you figure by the end of the 15 biennium, they'll have another 10 to 13 billion dollars that will go in on top of that. And the largest sum of that is going to come from our Medicaid issue. Talking about cutting the budget, I think the first thing is we need to look hard at what we're doing with our welfare. You realize that last year, 58% of all babies born in the state of Texas were born on Medicaid. It has gone up. In 2007, it was 55 to 56%, and it's going to continue to rise. We have an educational system where we are educating with our tax dollars groups of people that are undocumented. You and I know them as illegal aliens. So there's an area right there that if we could get that issue under control, that would save us a huge amount of money in terms of money that's going out. When we also, when I think about what is going on in here locally, as Bruce has mentioned, I'm a kind of a political outsider. I've been in the business for 26 years. I've balanced budgets. I've run car dealerships. I run 6 businesses under the same roof, day after day after day, and every single one of them's got to be hitting on all 8 cylinders in order for me to have a success. And when I think about that, I'm wondering, I know I hear about all these taxes going down, but so why does my property tax keep going up each year? It's gone up almost $2,000 in the last couple of years, and I realized that last year in the property tax, I'm so happy for this, it went from 32 cents, or 0.32 to 0.29. I sat up last night and I read all 4 budgets from 2010 to all the way up to what's going to happen in 2014. What has also happened is you have it, we done?
That's the time on that one, thanks. All right. And just give this question, we'll start with you, we'll keep all that
Okay.
back and forth.
Okay.
And so, the last question sort of leads into this one. We're talking about funding for transportation, right? As we discussed with the previous candidates, many proposals were put before the legislature. Some folks want to raise the inspection fee, some folks want to raise the registration fee, index the gas tax to inflation, raise that, more revenue somewhere else, maybe take existing revenue and move it over to transportation. And so what do you think about funding for transportation? How should we deal with that? And just tell us about that.
I think that what we have to do is we've got to relook at the entire budget. I don't think it's about just taking it from the taxes that are generated by cars. I certainly don't of car sales. I certainly do not believe that any of you here want to pay more money at the pump because they're going to raise some kind of tax on your gas. Wouldn't you agree? Of course. We don't want to do that. But we have so much other spending going on in other areas that we need to look at. You know, when I was at the dealership back in 2008, when we were going through this whole struggle with the recession, we got together as a team and we determined that we had to figure out a way with the shutdown of business and how things were going. How are we going to save money? What are the creative ways to do this? You know, we came up with a mantra. We can't save $1 million, but we can save $1 1,000,000 times. We got everybody together. We looked hard at every single category. Every category. Do you know that in that Lexus store, we had these little mints that we were spending $13,000 a year on for our customers? How can we keep the same experience? How can we make our customers happy and enjoy something when they come? You know what we did? We cut that, and we've got little black plastics with little mints inside, and we put the little Lexus emblem on there, and you know, we cut it down to $900. Do you know during that time period, we did not lay off one person? Cut some overtime, but we cut expenses out. We actually started turning off the lights when we left a room. It was amazing. Unfortunately, our customers couldn't come and eat lunch every day anymore, but they still got breakfast and Spunkmeyer cookies in the afternoon. People, we can be very, very creative. It's not rocket science. Why do we always have to think we have to add more? Let's look at what we have and let's take it from there. Don't you agree?
On transportation funding, possible sources of revenue, moving existing revenue around, just talk to us about transportation funding.
Thank you. Okay, so, you know, California for the first time did not get a congressional seat. You know, when you do the census, it's the first time ever California did not get a congressional seat, but Texas did. Because everybody's coming to Texas. So you know what California and New York and everybody's putting out about Texas is our roads are crumbling and we don't have water. So that's all they can shoot back at us. Because we're taking all the people, we're taking all the business, and we're building a stronger government. So transportation is an issue. It is, and there's been a lot of runs at it. Vehicle registration fees, sales tax, there's been a lot of runs at it. The problem is there's not a dedicated revenue source for transportation. It's got to be developed, it's got to be identified, and it's got to be maintained. And what happens is you just start robbing from one entity to another, and it just doesn't sustain itself. You know, the greatest roads were built in the 50s in the state of Texas. That's what made us so great. And we had a super infrastructure. You know, I'm not raising taxes. I will never raise taxes. I've never done it for all of my community service, all my political service for 15 years. But ways that have been approached to this is a user-based fee. It's a dedicated source on a user-based fee. It's a consumption fee, just as a way to identify. And I'd look at the budget, I'd look at the user-based fee, I'd use it to consumption fee and have a dedicated source to address the transportation needs. You can't ignore it. You cannot ignore it. That's a big issue in Legislative District 15, mobility and transportation. When I'm out there talking to everybody, they're concerned about roads and mobility. That is the biggest issue for everybody in Legislative District 15. So we'll work on it also. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Up, we'll start with you for the next question. This question caught some of us by surprise during the last panel, but I think you guys were here for, we talked about an Article 5 convention to amend the U.S. Constitution. Just a little more background, and I think you know what I'm talking about, but historically conservatives have feared a constitutional convention for fear that it could run away and you know, get rid of good parts of the Constitution. Of course, it would have to be ratified by the states, but there's been a concern about an Article 5 convention. But now Mark Levin and some other folks on the right are calling for it now. And so many conservatives are very exercised that we need to call a convention of the states to propose amendments to the Constitution. There's really not a right or wrong answer to this. It's just a question of your perspective on it. So Ms. Tuff, starting with you, Article 5, Convention of the States. Do you think Texas should participate in something like that to try to amend the U.S. Constitution?
Okay, so I'm a strict constructionist of the Constitution. I went to law school, and I've been a lawyer for over 30 years. I do business law. That's what I do. I don't want to mess with the Constitution. I think it should be interpreted in the strictest sense. That's the way I look at it, and that's the way it should be interpreted. I don't like legislative rulings from the judiciary, and if you start messing with it in a constitutional convention, depending on who's in charge or who has the majority at this point in time, and you're going to open it wide open for the next round. And then that'll have some really bad effects on us. You know, this Constitution is the best in the world, and we need to abide by it in the strictest sense. And when you start doing this, where you're going to come in and start throwing different amendments on it and move to alter it to suit your needs, that specific moment, it's a very, very dangerous ground. I would not support that.
Get your thoughts on Article 5,
Yes.
Convention of the States.
You know, I certainly would agree with Bruce, and he's got a lot more experience in the end of the law than I do. And I am a constructionist, and I do believe in a strict interpretation of the Constitution, but I also recognize that there have been amendments to the Constitution, which doesn't make you any less of a constructionist. I believe we absolutely need to have a convention. I believe we absolutely need to get serious about term limits. I believe that we need to get serious about the issue of the traditional family and what constitutes traditional family. But you know what? In the scheme of things, listen, people, we can change all the laws. We can add things to the Constitution. We can go to Austin, whether it's Bruce or I, and we will go there and we will spend 5 months creating laws that we will then have to live by for the next 2 years. The problem is that without the people governing themselves and having their own moral compass, we can put all the laws we want. And if people will not take care of their neighbor the way they should, what makes you think they're going to obey the laws? There are so many laws right now, we don't even know what they are. They're created, there's so many that are created. When I first kind of started looking at this, and I'm looking at, well, let me kind of look at the few laws that were done, I'll kind of get familiar with them and all the bills. Oh my goodness. I mean, like in the hundreds. You do this every year, every 2 years, excuse me. And as you do this every 2 years, you say to yourself, what is going to change? However, we do have a system that does operate on the rule of law. And I think that there are some things that in our country we've tried to get done. I think that in toto, we have a conservative group of people pretty much right now across the board in our country. There will be some struggles with that. There are certain things I think can be done. Term limits and traditional family are two of them.
Starting with Mr. Keogh for the next question. Public education, it's the biggest part of the budget, and it's state responsibility under the Texas Constitution. Whether we have children in public schools or not, individually, we all benefit from a strong public education system. Everybody agrees on that, I think. And so can we do to continue to improve our schools, to reform them? What are your ideas about public education reform?
You know, I have been headmaster of a private school, although it's a Christian organization, Association of Christian Schools International. I have a degree through Grace Theological Seminary, where I got my Master of Divinity after my 4 years, in my case 5 years of college. And so I had the opportunity to be a headmaster of a school when we started in the Humble area. And it was a very exciting time. In doing that, I was able to look at all these various things. And I think the first thing was to look at where our curriculum was, what that curriculum was going to be. And as I think now, and I look back on those years, and I think about what is going on in the public school system now. First of all, I love the Woodlands. I love the Woodlands. I love living there. I love the people. You know, and that will be my home. I will tell you, I am concerned for the state about issues that have to do with C-Scope, Common Core. They need to go. There cannot be a disconnect between the textbooks that really do a pretty good job and the curriculum that is being perpetrated upon the teachers, leaving out essential elements that are included in other areas of the textbooks. There's no transparency there. The parents aren't able to just walk in and find out what's going on. Transparency with parents is a huge issue. We know that this is a huge part of our budget. I think one of the problems in terms of the budget is that there is spending that takes place in various areas with certain schools that doesn't need to be spent, and that money has been allocated that could go back towards the teachers. Do you know that it was in 1970 that there was a ratio of 2.5 teachers for every one administrator, every one janitor, or whatever? Do you know what that is today? 1 to 1. How do you explain that? We have a growing bureaucracy right in our own school, sacrificing our greatest resource, which is our teachers, passing on our time.
Okay. And some stuff on public education and that sort of thing. Get you share with your thoughts on that.
Okay, here's the deal. We have 1,040 school districts. 1,040. We have 25 top large school districts, which is the majority of the students. If you left those top school districts alone, they would be accountable to the voters through the voting and the trustees. They can establish their own curriculum. You can have minimal testing. The thing that used to just frustrate me to no end is the testing and the testing and the testing. It yielded nothing. It really did. Nothing came about it. So there's steps that are being taken to do away with that. But when you hear about it, we want more money for education, and then a $60 million stadiums bill, the Berry Centers bill. You have these magnificent, huge administrative buildings. You have an increase in bloated administrative fees, and you have school districts that have a superintendent, assistant superintendent for elementary and for secondary education, and this whole school district is less than the size of one of our high schools. That's the inefficiencies that are going out there. I'll tell you, there's so much waste going on in the educational system. You can either legislate against it and have your legislators say, look, this is not it. And if you want to be radical about it, you say, look, transportation, we're going to consolidate the cost of transportation for the county and knock out the redundancy. The redundancy is amazing. And the fact that there is so many dollars that are spent that are not accounted for by the school district. In Conroe, it's done right. 6% is the administrator. I mean, if we just took that model and said, okay, the rest of you school districts, you need to do it like this. Okay, this is what you need to do. You can't have 20% or 15% administration. You're going to have 6%. It works. It works in a school district of 54,000 students. So that's the model you want to implement. You want to take something that works and that is working right, and that's the model you want to implement for the state.
That's the time.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, a difficult question that we asked in the last panel, and you guys probably heard, had to do with the leadership of the House. It's a very important question among the Republican primary voters. It's always hot at the state convention, and that is to do with the leadership of the House. Obviously, the Speaker of the House appoints committee chairman, appoints committees, has a big hand in the rules of the House, and so this really is the filter through which all other issues are considered. Some folks think it's a really important vote. some say the most important vote. And so we'd like to know your thoughts on the current leadership of the House. Would you like to change that, and how would you go about that? And so it's an important question a lot of folks have wanted us to ask. And so this one is up for you first. So leadership of the Texas House, are you satisfied with it? Would you change it? Tell us about that.
Okay, I'm going to say right now, I don't know the Speaker of the House. I haven't met him, and I don't know him. And I don't know you either. So I'm going to just say, I take everything that I do with a very open view, very deliberate view, that I'll make the right decision for the voters of Legislative District 15. Who knows? There may be only one speaker, and if I say I'm not voting for him, what am I to do? Just not vote? Is that the way you do things? You get a preconceived idea, notion, you say that's what's going to happen, I'm not going to do it right off the bat. I don't know. I don't know anybody in Austin. I haven't been in Austin. When I go to Austin, I'll be making those thoughtful and deliberate decisions for the voters of Legislative District 15, and I'll give it very careful, deliberate thought. I'm not pledging against, for, backward, sideways for anybody until I get there, find out who they are.
And Ms. Gill, same question for you. Leadership of the Texas House, are you satisfied with it? Would you change it?
I do not know Mr. Strauss either. I do know that there were a number of Republican conservatives that refused to vote for the budget. I do know that there has been, through individuals who are there, it's common knowledge that there has been holding back of very experienced, tenured people because of disagreement with the speaker. I don't know that that disqualifies him for the job. I like to do business with people I like to do business with too. And you all do as well. I think, for me, when I think about who I would want for that position, I am going to look at the person who is the most fiscally conservative, the one who is socially conservative. I'm going to look at the one who has the same view as I do that of the issues that have to do with our borders and securing our borders. So I believe there's a way to do this without bashing the guy who's already in there. I do, however, know from individuals who are there who are very strong conservatives that they are very disappointed with what is taking place. I have to go there and I have to see that for myself. But that being said, I'm going to look for a guy that thinks like me, that I believe is the way that District 15 thinks.
As we draw to a close, members of the legislature often go to Austin with goals, with aspirations, with convictions. And it seems like over time, you've been blessed with great representation in this part of Texas, but over time, sometimes reps who are there find themselves getting worn down and find their values changing, find themselves compromising, not just, maybe in ways they should or shouldn't. So if you'll each tell us what you were doing, what you plan to do to make sure that the values you hold today don't change once you get to Austin. And let's go, you're first on that one.
I think it starts with the values that you have at this point and what is the level of your convictions. I have my convictions are as strong as I know that I can be as it relates to what I believe about our borders, what I believe about our children, what I believe about life, what I believe about when life begins at conception, what I believe about Second Amendment rights, what I believe about freedom of speech, what I believe about my religious convictions as it relates to the state, where I believe I can speak up openly about what I believe in religious convictions as opposed to my political persuasions. I think that a person, before they get there, what you have to decide is the person that you see while you're sitting there is really the person that they say they are here. I can sit here and tell you I'm going to go there and I'm going to do this. Time will tell. Hopefully, you'll be able to say, by the time this is all over and by the time we vote in the primaries, you'll be able to say, I've watched that guy, I've watched him, I've seen what he's done, I've talked to people. He's lived in this area since 1996. He's raised a family in this area. He has put his kids through school in this area. He's made his kids in one of the wealthiest counties in this state. I've had the requirement for my children that they participate in whatever we do. We just don't roll over and play dead and give them everything they want. But they have to work along with what we do. My oldest daughter, Jessica, you want a car? We're going to match dollar for dollar. You raise the dollars, we'll do the dollars. And that's what she did. My kids in school, they had the opportunity to go wherever they wanted to go to school. But we made a deal. We said, look, we can afford it, we can do this, but you can live right here, and you can go to school right here, or if you want to go, then you're going to have to figure out a way to pay. That's a whole other story in itself. I'll pay tuition and books, but you're going to have to end up participating. People do not appreciate what they do not pay for. And that is my conviction.
I'm taking Mark's answer. That is the best answer I've heard all tonight. Okay, we all agree with me. Listen, it's the same for me. It's the same for me. Exactly the same. Married to Diana, 4 girls, 2 in college right now, 2 in school, all raised in the Woodlands. Marriage is between a man and a woman. I mean, that's the way I live my life. I'm a Christian man. I believe in God. I pray every day. I'm for life. And that's what I've been since I've been here in the Woodlands. I haven't changed a bit from that. You see me in community. You see me serving you, serving the Woodlands. I do that's who I am. I mean, you're seeing who I am. That's what I've done every day. You know, the community service part of me, you know, my family, my business, my community service, it's like perfect harmony. It's a perfect harmony of life and a commitment, and I love giving back to the community. That's what I like to do. I like to give back. This is something that I want to do, is to serve you and give back more. But you see what you get right here. And you've seen me serve you for 15 years in various public service. I haven't been paid for any of that service. I didn't want pay. I've never taken a job in community service or public service where I've received money or payment. I just want to give back. I want to give back to the community. And that's who I am.
Gentlemen, those answers led nicely into the closing statement that we each get. And so, Mr. Tuck, you're up for your 5-minute closing statement. And then we'll recognize, we'll get right up. So your 5-minute closing statement.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for sitting through the debate tonight. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from the questions. I learned a lot from the state rep candidates and their answers. I'm kind of glad we went after them because I got a free look at a lot of those, so it did help me think more. I just want to tell you, I would be truly, truly honored to serve and represent you in District 15. You know, my community service has been with the Homeowners Association, with the Fire Department, with the Woodlands Township, and the school district. And when things are running really good and there's an opportunity for me to serve in another way, I have put myself up for consideration by the voters if they want me to serve. I've never used any of my community service as a stepping stone. I don't want to be governor. I don't want to be senator. I just want to serve Legislative District 15. And there's always been good people that have served, and I wouldn't run against them because they were doing a great job and they were serving us well. So I figured that, you know, that opportunity had passed and I wouldn't have an opportunity to put myself up for your consideration. But with recent events, it has changed, and after this very, very deliberate, thoughtful, prayerful consideration, and with the support of my family, I've decided to run. And I would be truly honored to serve you and serve you in Austin. I think I can make a difference. I really do. I mean, I don't want to go to Washington D.C. I never go there. That place is really messed up. And there's no one going to help you. But Austin, we can do it. There's great things in the state of Texas. There's great things in Legislative District 15. These are great things that we have. Listen to the candidates speaking. I mean, we can make a difference. We're a powerful county. And people, our representatives go to Austin. They know us. They know Montgomery County. And I'm very proud of who we've had serve us. And I want to make you proud. And I'm asking for your vote and your support. Thank you.
It's good. Your 5-minute closing remarks.
You know, as I said at the outset, I have some deep concerns for our great state. Like all of you, man, I love Texas. I love this place. I love the outdoors. I love to take my family out. I love to boat. I love to hunt. I love to fish. I love the people. We have the friendliest people in the United States. It's amazing to me. I'm so excited about the opportunity to be able to be on the Republican ticket. You know, I told Kim, I said, Kim, win, lose, whatever the case, the fact that I had the opportunity in the greatest state in the United States to be on the Republican ticket, to have my name, is the greatest honor of my life, other than marrying my wife, Kim. But I will tell you, I'm deeply concerned. There is a movement that is going on, people, and you need to pay attention to this. There is a movement that is going on that it seems that we are either lethargic, we are asleep, whatever we may be, and we're not paying close enough attention to it. And I decided to do this. This was a hard decision for me. I've been bivocational for many years. Like Bruce, I've given back to the community through the churches, my wife and I, while at the same time running car stores last 14 years at Northside Lexus, having the opportunity to run that in private business. And as I went through that, and as I did that, I thought about all the things that we have worked so hard for, what we've tried to instill into our children, what we believe about the Woodlands, what we believe about the surrounding area. And I have to tell you, it is on the line, and we are kidding ourselves if we think that this deal is going to go on forever. It's not. The commitment that I made as Kim and I talked, and as we prayed about this, and as I listened to Pastor Cruz, and he talked about the individuals at the end of when they wrote the Declaration of Independence, in the answer to the king, and they expressed their grievances, they said they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And Kim and I that night pledged that to one another, and I thought I cannot hold back any longer. We have to do this. One of the things I'm deeply concerned about is the churches in the area, because I'm involved in a group of 18 pastors. Nobody ever talks about this stuff. Seems like during the recession, I took a little bit of time off and wasn't teaching anything. And I would go to the churches on Sunday morning. Obviously, I didn't go to Ted Sego's church. But I went to churches on Sunday morning, and I have to tell you, I was deeply concerned, and in some senses, for myself, for my family, for my income, for my life, my family's life. I was afraid. I was afraid. I remember going through 9/11. And 9/11 I saw as an opportunity, as difficult as it was, we knew that we were going to come back. This last round, we saw a change in the government. We saw change at every level. Hope and change is what we saw and what we experienced. Household words like General Motors, Chrysler, Ford, these places were going under. And I thought, you've got to be kidding me. How can this happen? Go to church, not one word. Not a word. Politically incorrect? I don't know. Fear of loss of 501c3? Maybe. And I thought, I'm not going to let that happen. I am not going to let that happen. I'm not going to let that happen as I have the chance to pastor church on Sunday morning. And I'm not going to let this just go down. I'm not going to roll over on this deal as I see what's going on. When there is a person that is out there that is dedicated to going exactly against what every one of you here believe. And then we don't show up to vote. We don't tell our neighbors. Shame on us. There's got to be a change. If you'll send me to Austin, I will work so hard for you. If you will vote for me to make sure that that change from red to blue does not happen and that we stay a Republican, conservative, red state.
Well, I don't know about you, but I think we have some tough decisions to make. There's some really good candidates in both of those races. I do ask that you can stay around and mingle a little bit as we're cleaning up and getting things put away. I'm sure that the candidates that are still here and a few more that have come in, Steve, you can visit with them. You're welcome to join the Montgomery Tea Party. We meet the first and third Monday of every month. And we meet at the Needham Road Baptist Church. You're welcome to join us at any time. I do ask that all the candidates go around and pick up your paraphernalia out of the seats. We know who you are. If it's there, we know you didn't pick theirs up. If you'll pick those up, or else the person who said it and take them home, want to do that, certainly help. Brian, thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you.